I started investing in property back in 2006, and my first deal was a complete mess. I spent tens of hours on pointless viewing, thousands of pounds on deals that went nowhere, and I don't even want to think about how many tens of thousands more I would have made if I'd started making better investments sooner. Fast forward to the time of me recording this, and as well as my own portfolio, I run a property company that helps investors buy over £100 million worth of property every year. We have processes for every single stage of the buying journey, and I could basically buy a property in my sleep. So what are the main things that I know now that I didn't understand back then? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk you through the most common mistake beginners make, what I wish I knew when I first started, and the 5 hacks that will help you become a property expert faster to avoid the wasted time and money that I spent in the beginning. So firstly, I want to give you a tangible example that you can probably relate to. One of the most popular New Year's resolutions is to learn a language. But if you sign up to Duolingo and do a quick 3-minute lesson a day, just enough to keep your streak alive and to keep the nagging owl off your back, then you might learn a few words. But go abroad and try even something basic like ordering a drink in a bar and you'll be totally lost. However, if you double down and spend an hour per day immersing yourself in the language, you'll really see results. Cada día hablarás un poquito mejor. Thanks, Google Translate. In other words, to get good at something, you need to put in the reps. But people seem to forget this when it comes to property. They'll watch one YouTube video or do one viewing a week and call themselves an aspiring investor. But if you want to take investing seriously, you need to be disciplined. And once you know what you're doing, it's really not that hard, especially if you cram as much learning as possible into a short space of time. So how do you actually do that? Well, when I first started on my buy-to-let journey, I'd spend days trying to decide if I should invest in a particular property. I didn't want to make mistakes, so I took my time. But that was a mistake in itself. I lost so many deals due to analysis paralysis. I wasn't decisive enough. But you can easily avoid this by making property analysis part of your routine. Set aside half an hour to go through properties on Rightmove every day. You could even do this while pedaling away on the static bike or elliptical, so you can multitask while you're at the gym if you really want to double dose on the self-improvement. Find a property you'd like to buy and compare its price to recently sold properties. Then find similar rental properties in the area to work out how much you could rent it out for. The next step is to calculate key costs such as stamp duty and mortgage interest, because these of course will affect your profitability. This will start getting you towards a quick estimate of your cash flow and yield. We have a spreadsheet that can help you with this, by the way. Type in your estimated purchase price and rental amount and it will do all the sums for you. You can download it for free using the link in the description. And once you've built that into your routine, you then need to build the next skill in the chain. Viewings. Being able to size up a property's potential in 5 minutes while an estate agent natters away is a skill. And the best way of developing it is to try and line up as many viewings as possible in the space of a week. Think of it like signing up to a language crash course, where you cram several months of learning into 7 days instead of spending 10 minutes a day on Duolingo. I know this might sound strange, but you don't need to come out with a property at the end of it. Your goal is just to get used to the process, chat with the agents, and learn exactly which questions to ask. This might feel pointless, but it can actually save you so much time later. By building a relationship with the agents, they're more likely to give you a heads up when suitable properties are available in future. And the more viewings you attend, the easier it gets to spot issues and red flags that could cost you thousands in wasted surveys further down the line. So now you know how to start getting the reps in. How can you make sure that they're the right reps? Every so often, I'll meet up with a group of friends who also run their own businesses. And when they describe the things that they're losing sleep over, I often think the solution is obvious. But it's not because I'm a better business person. They do the same thing for me. I'll be catastrophizing about something and they'll come along and say, just do this. Because it's so much easier to give other people advice than it is to take it yourself. I'm no psychologist, but I guess it's because we're too close to our own problems, which makes it hard to see things objectively. Either way, our friends have enough distance that they can see the bigger picture. So how can you use this knowledge on your quest to become a property pro? Well, why not imagine that your friend is where you are now. Pretend that you're telling them what to do instead of the other way around. First, you want to get all the facts down in writing. Write down who you are, what you're trying to achieve, where you're starting from, where you are now, and what's holding you back. Then take a break. When you look back on your notes with a fresh pair of eyes, imagine that this isn't your situation. Imagine that a friend has presented you with this information and asked you for your advice. It might sound silly, but this mindset shift can really be the difference between doing nothing for years because you're paralysed with fear versus making a decision and moving forwards. And as we all know, investing in property is a long-term game. You might make money in the short term through rental income, but the biggest gains are made over 10, 20, 30 years or more. So the longer it takes you to get started, the more it's costing you. But if pretending to be your own friend makes you feel a bit too sad and lonely, the good news is you can also confide in ChatGPT. Not only is AI good at being objective, it can also generate answers from a much wider range of sources than we humans will ever have access to. However, if you just type in a basic prompt without giving it much thought, then the results will be average. So here are a few tricks to get the most out of it. First, give it more information. Some people expect too much from AI. They'll ask it to write them a property investment strategy, only to be disappointed when they're given a generic answer. Instead, you first want to feed it all the information you wrote down when following my help a friend trick. Tell ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or whatever tool you're using how much money you've got, what you want to achieve in a specific time frame, what matters to you, and what you're scared of. I mean, property crashes rather than spiders. You can also prompt it to ask you questions if it needs more information. Many AI tools also have a voice note feature, meaning you can talk to it as if you're chatting to a friend or mentor. No, I'm not suggesting this is a cure for loneliness, but you just might find it easier to get things out of your brain and onto the page by speaking rather than writing. I also suggest that instead of asking AI for one solution, to get better results, you can ask for multiple. Scan through the options, pick out the ones that make the most sense, and either ask your AI to elaborate or fine-tune them, or give you more answers along the same lines. And finally, remember that AI is your sidekick, not your servant. You want it to challenge you and even talk back. So before you close the tab, ask it what you're missing and whether there are any gaps in your thinking. Are there any reasons why your strategy might not work? If you're using a chatbot that remembers your previous conversations, this can give you more of an advantage. It might bring up information from a previous discussion and use it as a reason why your idea is either good or bad. It might know that you've got young kids, so your time is limited, for example, even if you forgot to bring that up in this particular conversation. Once you're happy with the results, ask it to summarize everything in writing and give you a step-by-step action plan with specific targets and deadlines. However, hack number 5 is probably the biggest game changer and is slightly more socially accepted than pretending you're your own best friend or spending hours speaking to a robot. To really bring this home, let me introduce you to two newbie investors, Simon and Adam. Simon's looking to buy his first investment property, but he's scared of messing things up. So to reduce the risk, he does tons of research. He nearly bought a house in Manchester last year, but changed his mind when forum members recommended Liverpool instead. He nearly bought a flat, but pulled out after reading horror stories about rising service charges and ground rents. A year later, Simon still hasn't bought a property. Every time he gets close, he sees a new opinion, new strategy, or a new cautionary tale. Another reminder of how little he knows. Adam, on the other hand, has a different approach. Instead of spending hours on Reddit, he gets in contact with an old friend who already has a property portfolio. Thanks to his mate, within a couple of weeks he's decided which area he's going to buy in, attended some viewings, and got a mortgage broker sorted. All because he ignored the noise and listened to one person instead of hundreds. And the best part is, his friend didn't charge him a penny. If you don't already know someone in the property investment space, finding a good mentor can be challenging, because online, you've got to separate the experienced investors from the experienced marketers. Now, call me stingy, many people do, but I'd specifically seek out someone who doesn't charge you, who doesn't even put themselves out there as a mentor, but is just happy to pass on their experience. Now, this isn't quite a click your fingers job, but it's not as hard as you think. Property is a lonely game after all, and many people will just be delighted that someone's taking an interest. And if you can find a mentor who'll work with you for free, it helps you to get off the fence, buy your first property, and start speaking the language of property con bastante fluidez. However, I mentioned earlier that viewings are like taking a crash course in property. Well, if you're at the start of your journey and you don't even know where to look or what type of property you want, then I suggest you check out this video next. It's a comprehensive UK property investment course that talks you through step by step absolutely everything you need to start investing.